Are you ready to dive into the world of project management? Hit that subscribe button as we explore how to stay relevant in an agile workforce. Is going to be one of the most important factors to your success. So we're going to talk about communicating during the project. We're going to talk about communication methods, communication types. We're going to cover all things communication. Once again, download this study guide on the EverTech and the Project Leaders page. Let's dig in. First, we're going to cover communication methods. And these communication methods all go into the communication management plan. And this helps the team communicate project performance and progress. Communication methods. It ensures that concerned people in the project know about issue resolution processes and are aware of impending severity of issues. And issues are when risks are currently occurring. When an issue occurs, this communication method enables individuals to take the appropriate action. Communication methods, you have interactive communication. This involves communicating between people, forming multi-directional information exchange. We all have push communication. This is sending information to a receiver. We have pull communication. This involves receivers accessing information whenever required. We're also going to discuss some communication types. And you want to make sure that you're tailoring this specifically to the project and also towards the project team and stakeholders. So we have communication types. On the left-hand side of this, we have the types listed. We have benefits in the middle column, and then we have the constraints. So we're going to start from the left. Face-to-face meetings. Some benefits of it is that you get instant feedback, immediate clarification, and it can be scheduled or impromptu. Some constraints about face-to-face meetings are that it requires communication to take place at the same time and same location. It also requires a meeting time and date, voice and video, conferencing, virtual meetings. Some benefits is that it does not require communication to take place in the same location. It provides audio and potential visual feedback, and it can be scheduled or impromptu. However, some constraints are that potential message translation can be misunderstood. And also, since you may not be in the same location, you may have issues with time zone. It also requires special equipment and also connection. So you can have some connection issues. We're gonna go third towards email. Some benefits are email. Benefits of emails are that it enables parties to communicate when it's convenient. It also provides an official paper trail. However, it is always not most timely. And also, security can be a potential issue. People can get hacked. You have potential issues with confidential messages. So you have potential security issues. Faxes. This is a convenient way from a benefit to send a message. However, the equipment and also connection is required for this. And it's an also outdated form of communication. We also have instant messaging. This provides immediate communication. It can be set and also configured by the organization. However, message content can be very limited. It also is a very informal way of unofficial messaging. We also have text messaging. This is for a more immediate communication. It's available and accessible to anyone with a mobile device. So there's a lot of benefits of text messaging. However, it requires a mobile phone, limited to short bursts of communication. You're not going to send as long documented communication through text message. You could, but it's not a norm. We also have print media. This provides official documentation and legal archives. It provides legitimacy of communication. However, it's costly to produce. It also is a permanent record of communication. We have social media. This is low overhead. So there's a lot of benefits of using social media for broadcasting messages. It's a great method to communicate to specific demographics. However, communication is very one way and is very limited in your feedback. We also have company websites. This is consistent. It can be dynamic communication channel based on requests. It reduces geographic location fact. However, it requires personal and personalized management and also updates. And all feedback on websites can be very limited, and two-way communication is not in real time. So those are some communication types. We're also going to talk about some communication methods to consider. This is a deep topic when you're creating your communication management plan, because we need to make sure that we center this all around the project management plans and those components and what this would tie in and how this relate to your project. Remember, you have to tailor towards the context. So let's look at some method for communication and considerations that you were going to have. Let's first go into the communication model. It must be considered when you're creating your project management plan and the communication project management plan, because it determines how your information is going to flow back and forth. You must include the sender, receiver, and also the message. Let's look at the communication methods and also some considerations. Communication method considerations. First, we have language barriers. You have to find a common language or proven translator and interpreters to ensure that messages that are sent are received clearly. And as you see, printed messages are more straightforward and easier to translate, but you have to find a common language or proven translators. Geographic factors. This means that individuals on the project team or stakeholders are scattered across time zones or global hemispheres. Take this into factor and consideration. Using voice and video conferencing to help bridge the geographic gap and tailoring it specifically to make sure that you take those individuals into consideration. With technology, this requires investments in your technological resources. Take into factors that when you're looking at the success of your project, if you're trying to be low cost, then maybe your results may be low cost and not as valuable because you didn't invest in that communication technology, you didn't receive the proper feedback, your team was disjointed. This is something critical. You need to invest in the technology. Cultural, you need to make sure that you take into factor the cultural beliefs, into organizational, depending upon the parties involved and how frequently communication occurs. There needs to be a method of communication that should be documented in official organizational procedures, and they need to follow a manual. A lot of these will be tied to the OPAs. These are going to be tied to what the organization wants from their internal organization processes and procedures. And then we also have intra-organization. So within the organization, the communication methods and channels are probably well-defined, understood, and most effective message. So you want to make sure that you're messaging across organizations and within the organizations we were talking about intra to be coordinated and jointed. You also need to make sure that you take into the personal preferences. Some team members prefer email while others prefer a phone call. All this needs to go into your communication management plan. It also goes into your stakeholder engagement, rapport, and relationship building. You need to have a personal touch because this is more effective when the goal is building rapport and relationships, and you're going to have more success with your projects. A phone call, a personal message is much more persuasive than an email. And then also we have message. You need to make sure that the news that a messenger or the message that an individual receives is effective and clear. You want to make sure that you have that personal touch, include that rapport, and also make sure that you're actively listening and it's a two-way street. And criticality, make sure that the communication method is appropriate to the project message and the importance and criticality. So if it's a very mission critical message that you need something, that you need a response immediately, you need to mark that message or you need to inform the receiver how important that message is so then they can respond. And then also stakeholder requirement, documentation for official tracking and monitoring purposes that may drive chosen communication method. So you need to make sure that you're documenting why you're choosing a particular communication method. So we're talking about the communication methods that you're considering within projects. You need to take all these into factor and consideration. And then we're talking about a communication management plan. All of this information goes into the communication management plan. When creating a communication management plan, you are ensuring that your project is going to have effective communication. This ensures the right people receive the correct information at the right level of detail and at the most appropriate time and in the right format. The project manager, the communication management plan is central and critical towards your establishment of all other component plans. This allows you to identify the who, the types of communication, and the what they're going to receive, and the frequency, the when, and the communication technology, the how it will be used. And as you see on the bottom, we have a grid, a stakeholder grid, where we have stakeholders, message, method, format, frequency, and who is responsible for communicating that. This all goes into a communication management plan. When you're creating this, you can create this, and this ties into the stakeholder engagement as well. You're going to need to do some stakeholder and communication requirements analysis. You're going to do some communication requirements analysis as the project manager and the project leader. You're going to document the communication needs and include relevant information about the stakeholders, their interests, and also you're going to conduct some logistical analysis. Not all stakeholders require the same amount or level or timeliness of communication. You're going to do communication requirements analysis as an investigational tool to understand their communication needs and help. And this will help you as a project manager make effective choices regarding the technologies and recommend the communication management plan. Put that information into the communication management plan. You're going to address the communication preferences, functional or hierarchical barriers, language barriers, technical barriers, cultural differences when working with remote teams. As a project manager, you're going to conduct communication requirements analysis. You're going to survey stakeholders regarding their communication preferences and their needs. How often do they want their status? How do you prefer to receive your information, whether it's phone, email, face-to-face, and what level of detail are you expecting? There are some communication channel calculation formulas that you can understand and know. This is not something that you're going to have to memorize for the PMP exam, but you want to make sure that you understand this just generally, because this helps you understand how many potential communication channels you will need within a project. Project managers need to identify the number of communication channels or paths that indicate the complexity of the project's communication, the number of channels or number of ways the team can communicate, where N is the number of stakeholders. And then they have an example, there's 12 stakeholders, and they give a formula in this so you can see how many communication channels that you would need. Based off of this, there's 12 stakeholders, you would need 66 communication channels using this formula. So then we also talk about situational communication responses. You're gonna deal with situational communication responses. Personality conflicts between team members, personality conflicts between team members. You need to meet with the team members separately and understand the issues and concern. Then you need to meet with them together and discuss and resolve the differences. The project is significantly behind the schedule. You need to discuss the issue with the sponsor. If the project is behind the schedule, you need to discuss that with the sponsor. Minor organizational changes have occurred. You need to discuss the issue with the project team during regular meetings. So that's dealing with transparency. There's organizational changes that have occurred. You need to bring that up to the project team whenever you have that regular meeting. Let's say a significant milestone has been completed. You need to notify the sponsor and senior management of that achievement. They want to know when these milestones have. A team member leaves the organization. You want to discuss the team member's exit and its effect with the project during the regular meetings. You got to keep the team informed. A team member passes unexpectedly. You need to immediately hold an emergency meeting with the project team and discuss the effect on the project. When the main vendor is unresponsive, you need to first meet with the vendor, view the contract requirements and the deliverables. Immediately following that, you need to meet with the sponsor and you should notify them. You need to document those objections to the vendor in writing, and you need to protect yourself and the project team and the organization from a legal standing. Let's say that there are significant budget cuts that have occurred. You need to call an emergency meeting with your project team. You need to announce the change and how it's going to impact the scope, project, and resources needed for the project. And also you need to contact and meet with the vendor and negotiate new contract terms if required. Once again, I want you to download this study guide about communication and communicating during the project. You can find this on the EverTech page and also the project leaders page. Make sure to follow this page, subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more project management content. See you on the next one.